On a stormy night in Willow Creek, Tennessee, Sarah Miller sat in her small bungalow, exhausted but committed to her mission of rescuing dogs. Her home was already filled with 3 foster dogs: Sprout, a loud terrier mix; Amos, a blind old hound; and Luna, a one-eared pit bull. Despite her love for them, Sarah was struggling. Supplies were low, vet bills were piling up, and she hadn't had a proper night's sleep in weeks. Just as she was about to take a break, her phone rang. It was Jenny Carter, a shelter volunteer, and from the urgency in her voice, Sarah knew it wasn't good news. "Sarah, I've got a crisis. There's a pregnant German shepherd at the county shelter. She's on the kill list tonight. She's in active labor. We have to get her out now." Sarah's heart clenched. She had no space, no money, but she knew she couldn't say no. "Fine, bring her, but you owe me coffee for a month." Jenny arrived in the heavy rain, pulling up in her battered car. As soon as she opened the door, a soaked and terrified German shepherd stumbled out, her swollen belly heavy with pups. The dog's amber eyes darted wildly, full of fear and exhaustion. "Meet Denali," Jenny said, shoving a soggy bag of kibble into Sarah's hands. "She's yours now. I've got to go." Before Sarah could protest, Jenny drove away, leaving her alone in the rain with Denali. The dog whined and collapsed in the mud. Sarah's heart broke. "Hey, baby girl, you're safe now," she whispered, kneeling beside her. Her 16-year-old son, Jake, appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, what's going on?" "New foster. She's having puppies. Help me get her inside." Together, they carefully lifted Denali and carried her into the house. The other dogs barked excitedly, but Denali ignored them, curling up on a rug, her body trembling. Sarah wiped the rain from her face and took a deep breath. "She has to make it," she muttered. "She just has to." Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, a different kind of storm was brewing. A battle of survival, trust, and the fragile beginnings of a bond that would change everything. The morning after Denali's rescue, Sarah woke to the soft whimpering of the German shepherd. She was curled up tightly in the corner of the living room, watching every movement with wary eyes. The storm outside had calmed to a light drizzle, but inside the house, tension still lingered. "She hasn't eaten yet," Sarah murmured as she set a fresh bowl of kibble and water near Denali. Jake, now more awake, crouched nearby. "She's huge," he said, staring at her swollen belly. "Puppies coming soon, huh?" Denali barely reacted. She was still too scared to let her guard down. Sarah sighed, running a hand through her messy hair. "She's been through too much. We have to help her feel safe." The next few days became a slow battle of patience. Sarah and Jake took turns sitting with Denali, speaking softly, giving her space, letting her know she wasn't alone. Sarah sang old folk songs, her voice cracking with exhaustion, hoping to bring some comfort. "You're not broken," she whispered one night, her fingers hovering near Denali's fur. "Just been a little. We'll fix that together." On the 6th day, something shifted. A snowy Sunday afternoon, the house was quiet, save for the soft crackling of the fireplace. Jake had cracked a window, letting a chill sweep through, and Sarah sat next to Denali, too tired to sing. Instead, she just talked about her first rescue dog, about how she had left a stable job to follow her passion, about how she wanted to make sure no dog ever felt abandoned again. Denali lifted her head slightly, ears twitching at Sarah's voice. Then, like a miracle, her tail flicked once, then twice. "Jake!" Sarah gasped, motioning him over. He rushed to her side, his eyes wide as Denali wagged her tail again, a hesitant, almost uncertain motion, but a sign of trust. "No way," he whispered. "She's waking up." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she reached out, this time brushing her fingers lightly over Denali's fur. For the first time, the dog didn't flinch. She just leaned into Sarah's touch. "Welcome home, girl," Sarah murmured, her heart swelling with hope. But the peace didn't last long. That night, at 3 a.m., frantic scratching from upstairs yanked Sarah from her sleep. She grabbed a flashlight and rushed up, Jake stumbling behind her. In the dim light, Denali was clawing at the carpet, her body hunched, a low whimper spilling from her throat. Her amber eyes locked onto Sarah's, wild, desperate. "Mom, she's in labor," Jake breathed. Sarah's pulse spiked. "It's happening." Sarah bolted upright, her heart pounding as she rushed to Denali's side. The German shepherd was trembling, her body tense with contractions, her breathing shallow but determined. Jake stood frozen in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice unsteady. "We help her," Sarah replied, steadying herself. "Get me towels, warm water, and stay close." Jake sprinted down the stairs as Sarah knelt beside Denali. "You're doing great, girl," she murmured, her voice soft and reassuring despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Denali let out a sharp whimper, her muscles tensing as the first puppy entered the world. At 4:15 a.m., a tiny, slick bundle slid onto the blanket. Sarah held her breath as Denali instinctively turned, licking the newborn pup clean. A weak squeak broke the silence, and Sarah let out a shaky laugh. "She did it," Jake whispered, kneeling beside her, his face full of awe. Sarah gently rubbed the puppy dry, its tiny body warm and fragile in her hands. "One down," she said, placing the pup near Denali's belly. The shepherd barely spared Sarah a glance. Her instincts had fully taken over now. Minutes later, another contraction hit, and a second pup arrived. Then a third, each one a small triumph of survival. Denali licked each pup clean, nudging them closer for warmth. Sarah marveled at her, at the strength she had despite everything she had been through. Hours passed in a blur of labor, whispered encouragement and careful tending. By dawn, the count had reached 7. 7's lucky, right? Jake asked, his voice rough from the sleepless night. Sarah nodded, but a knot formed in her stomach. Denali was weakening, her breaths coming shorter, her body straining. "She's not done yet," Sarah said, brushing sweat from her forehead. One by one, more puppies arrived, 8, 9, 10. Each birth was a miracle, but Sarah's worry grew with every passing moment. Denali's exhaustion was evident, her once powerful body now trembling. Then came the 11th, a runt, barely moving. "No, no, no," Sarah muttered, scooping the motionless pup into her hands. It wasn't breathing. Desperation clawed at her as she rubbed its tiny body, willing it to fight. Denali let out a whimper, her amber eyes locked onto Sarah's. Then, as if responding to its mother's silent plea, the puppy twitched. A faint, fragile gasp, and then a tiny cry. Sarah exhaled in relief, tears blurring her vision. She placed the pup beside Denali, who nudged it close with a tired but loving touch. 11, Jake whispered, sitting back. "That's crazy." Sarah let out a laugh, exhausted but overwhelmed with emotion. "Insane and beautiful." Denali curled protectively around her newborns, her amber eyes soft, filled not with fear, but with gratitude. Sarah reached out, her hand brushing over Denali's head. This time, the shepherd didn't flinch. She leaned into it. "You did good, Mama," Sarah whispered. And for the first time since she arrived, Denali was home. 3 weeks had passed since that snowy night when Denali gave birth, and Willow Creek was now wrapped in the crisp chill of December. Inside Sarah's home, the once fragile puppies had grown into playful, curious little troublemakers. They tumbled over each other, their tiny paws skidding across the wooden floor, their excited yips filling every corner of the house. Sarah and Jake had named them all Bandit, the bold explorer with a mask-like face, Pebble, the tiny gray runt, Thunder, the loudest of the bunch. Each pup had a personality as big as their mother's heart. And Denali, she had transformed. Gone was the trembling, fearful dog that collapsed in the rain. Now, she watched over her pups with quiet confidence, her amber eyes reflecting the trust she had learned to have in the people who had saved her. Christmas was just a week away, and the bittersweet reality of Adoption Day loomed closer. Sarah had posted photos of the puppies online, and responses flooded in. Families from all over Tennessee wanted to take them home. Late into the night, Sarah read each application carefully, determined to find the perfect match for every pup. The morning of December 23rd arrived too quickly. The driveway filled with eager families, bundled up in winter coats, carrying leashes and blankets. Sarah stood by the door, clipboard in hand, her heart aching as she prepared for the inevitable goodbyes. One by one, the puppies left. Bandit ran off with a young couple and their giggling toddler. Pebble curled into the arms of an older woman who had lost her last dog to old age. Thunder was scooped up by two excited brothers, promising endless games of fetch. By noon, the once lively playpen was empty. Only Denali remained. Sarah sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of the morning settle on her. Denali curled beside her, rested her head on Sarah's lap, her warm amber eyes searching for reassurance. "You did good, Mama," Sarah whispered, stroking Denali's ears. The final adoption loomed, Denali's own. Sarah knew she couldn't keep her, but the thought of saying goodbye was unbearable. That evening, the last car pulled into the driveway. A retired couple, the Hendersons, stepped out, their smiles gentle, their voices warm. They had a large farm an hour north, with open fields, a cozy barn, and endless space for Denali to roam. Sarah led them inside, recounting Denali's journey, the rescue, the birth, the trust she had learned to build. Mrs. Henderson knelt, offering a hand, and Denali leaned in, sniffing cautiously before wagging her tail. "She's a sweetheart," Mr. Henderson said. "She'll be queen of our home." Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat and gathered Denali's blanket and favorite stuffed squirrel. She walked him to the truck, knelt in the snow, and cupped Denali's face in her hands. "Live your best life, baby," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. Denali pressed her nose to Sarah's cheek, then turned and stepped into her new beginning. 3 months later, a letter arrived with photos